you have any thoughts on which proposal you think might be the most beneficial? More money but less broadcast television, or same amount of money but you got more?
I have alluded to my opinion on this. I just said it a few minutes ago that Fox, they're offering more money, but then you're going to have more races on FS1, FS2. Of course, in NASCAR, we have races on FS1. Then FS2, that's like if it's like rain delayed or something is overlapping, like a basketball game's running long or a soccer game's running long, then it shifts over to FS2. Not nearly as many people at Fox Sports 2 or even know that it exists. And yeah, you could say FS2 is probably better than a streaming service, but I feel like the name recognition is a bigger factor here because Peacock, I feel like more people know what Peacock is than what FS2 is. Maybe I'm wrong, but that'd be my assumption. But for me, IndyCar, yeah, the money is very important, and that's why Penske's trying to do like a charter agreement sort of thing, like what NASCAR does, and that's why they're talking to Fox in the first place, is for the bigger payday. But it's just NBC right now. They're offering you more races on NBC. You can keep the kind of not momentums. I think we're kind of at a stagnant at this point. But you're getting the consistency, and you're on network television, and it's simulcasted on Peacock. I feel like that's kind of what you need. But you also have to do work yourselves on IndyCar side. They need to do better on the marketing. We've been saying that. I've been saying that for like 5 years or more at this point. But they need to do better at just promoting themselves and not just make NBC do all of it. Because NBC does a great job at it. They could do more, sure. Like put Joseph Newgard on SNL, the Today Show, like something like that. And they have those things. They could totally do it if they wanted to. But they still do a good job, in my opinion. It's just Fox. If IndyCar races are on FS2, you're just not. I feel like that's such a harder, much more difficult network to find than say, like, hell, it's on Peacock. I can just spend money to do that. Like, yeah, the viewing numbers are probably the same, maybe a little better on FS2, but I think for growth, you can't be relegated to Fox Sports 2.
I'd rather there be 3 races on FS2 than 2 races on Peacock. And I think
that's my thing is like, I think that the streaming is still the better choice because it has more growth in the long term, potentially. Because FS2, that's been around as long as FS1 and it hasn't grown at all.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think from my own personal experience because I remember, I think there was even the first couple of years that Xfinity had the sponsorship rights to the second tier NASCAR series, that it was ironic because there was a race that got bumped to FS2 and the sponsor that it is the entitlement sponsor of the series didn't carry the network in the same tier of the cable package. But I think FS2 is, I mean, it's certainly still not, like it is with ESPN and ESPN2, where they're, right next to each other in your channel guide and the two networks are virtually indistinguishable from one another. But I've been able to access FS2 for years now with the Xfinity package that I had, and now having YouTube TV. I know that the two of them are right next to each other now as well. So, again, we just saw it with the NCAA tournament, right? It was on the men's championship game was on TBS or TNT or one of those Turner networks, right? And it still drew in about the same. I hope you guys can still hear me. I'm getting the notice that my internet's dipping a little bit. The ratings were still in line with what CBS has been drawing the last couple of years because it's been alternating every other year. It certainly helps, but I think sometimes we might put a little bit too much stock in the race was on network television, therefore the ratings should be, double what they're going to get on cable or miles ahead of what they get on cable. I think it's a slight bump, but I don't know that it would be a catastrophic bump if, say, only 6 races were on network as opposed to 8. I don't know that that's necessarily going to be like those 2 races are going to make a massive difference. It's also an interesting dynamic with NBC now because obviously NBCSN's been, defunct for a couple of years, and that's why you get races on USA. You get a couple of races that even get bumps to Peacock because they don't have that dedicated sports channel anymore. So again, that's kind of the problem that I've had with NBC over the last couple of years is that when you have overrun like that, NBCSN, yeah, it might be a pain for the casual fans to find on their channel guide, or it might not be. It's certainly not a network that was on par with ESPN, but it at least existed. And, if you searched hard enough, you could go find it. and it made sense for programming like that to be bumped to a channel like that. I don't think it makes very much sense for motorsports content to be bumped to CNBC or the Consumer News and Business Channel, or USA, which is a network that's mostly known for Law and Order reruns and other things like that. So I think NBC's kind of put themselves in a box here, and I don't know if the part of the plan was they saw that where the landscape was shifting, where cable was kind of dying in their minds, and maybe they wanted to try to prop Peacock up a little bit. But I think that the fact that Fox has not just one but two dedicated sports channels where that overrun could flow into, I think maybe plays to their advantage a little bit as well. But again, I understand that streaming is certainly the way of the future, but Peacock it's not Netflix, it's not Disney, it's not Prime, it's not even Max, what they have with Turner Sports and everything. I just don't know that it's on that level where I'd say, and I mean, again, I've alluded to it on this show. I've alluded to it, on this network in the past. I really don't like where we're at right now with the schedule, where you've got two exclusive races. And I wasn't happy enough with one. Now we've got two. I just think that, if you can get a deal where, forget network versus cable for just a second, can we get all the races on linear television? That would be an ideal position for me to be in.